So hello everybody. It's nice to see your names on my screen. It would be nicer to see your faces in front of me, but these are the times that we are living in. And I'm very happy to be here today to introduce one of our speakers in what has been called the Creative Industries series, which is a series that we've prepared this semester to invite a series of practitioners that will come and talk about not only their incredible work, but also to then have a sort of a closed workshop with the almost graduating class of the Masters in Interior Architecture and talk with them about these more nuts and bolts skills and tips and tricks for navigating the real world once they are out of their studies. And in this session, we're very happy to invite Leonid Slonimskiy, who is one of the founders and leads of the architectural office KOSMOS Architects. You will know Leonid. He is also teaching at the department. And at the same time, he conduces a very multifaceted practice outside the department. When we were organizing this series, it was very important for us to invite Leonid to come and speak, because we really think that the way that he runs his own office is a very sort of contemporary way, and it is urgent to speak about these new modes of collaboration, from the idea of a decentralized office to the idea of an office that produces much more than just architectural commissions. KOSMOS does a variety of things, from editorial and research projects to architectural commissions of many different scales and many different temporalities as well. So all of these sort of thorny and messy conditions of our contemporary moment come together in many of the works that KOSMOS is doing. So just some brief words about Leonid. He was born in Moscow and he studied there and also in New York at the Columbia University GSAPP. He worked with OMA in New York, with Herzog de Meuron in Basel. He started KOSMOS, and since then he's been winning a variety of competitions and has been working at a variety of scales in different parts of the world, and also working not only, as I said, in architectural commissions, but also doing curatorial, research, editorial projects. And before he joined the MAIA and the Department of Interior Architecture, at the head, he was teaching in Bangkok at Chulalongkorn University, the INDA Faculty of Architecture and Design. And he has also taught a variety of workshops in summer schools with the AA, with Strelka, University of Antwerpen, and so on. Leonid, I'm very happy to have you here today, and I'll pass it on to you.
Thank you, Vera. Thank you, everyone, for coming. I feel quite at home because I know most of you, so I don't feel like a big public lecture, and therefore it may be big, it may be public, but I feel more like that we are talking in our studio, unfortunately in Zoom today. So I made a bit a different layout of the lecture that we usually do. I will not focus on the projects per se, like explain each project from the, let's say, site, perspective, client, idea, and so on. But I will show rather many projects we did in a couple of slides each, without going too deep in them, but rather to structure today's talk in a more chronological way and more like, so from now I will share the screen. More in a way, do you see my screen?
Yes.
It's supposed to be black and says how to run your own studio. So rather trying to answer this question, which Vera has posed, I mean, I'm not sure that I know the answer. I'm not sure that we run the office in the most efficient way. I will just share our experience, and then let's say, if it helps someone, I will be happy. So first, I would like to tell you about team and background of our office. So the main partners are three. That's me, Artyom Kitaev in the middle, and Nikolai Martinov on the right. I live now in Zurich. Artyom lives in Graz, and Nikolai, he lives in New York. And we are all from Moscow, but after we graduated from Moscow Architecture University, we have moved quite a lot throughout the world, but we kept our collaboration. So we have, I have, as Vera said, I will explain it later, studied and worked in New York, studied in Tokyo, worked in taught in Bangkok, and also lived in Basel, Geneva, where I started to work in head, and Artyom moved between Vienna and Graz after coming back from Bangkok. So as I said, this is Moscow Architecture University. It's a classical Beaux-Arts school in the center of Moscow, the traditional one, and we all graduated, all three partners graduated from this university. And a very important figure in our life was a very respected and famous professor and architect in Russia, Evgeny Assa, who has his own studio, but he is now also the director of March School, which is one of the most prominent Moscow architectural schools, and where we will lead a studio there next year as an office. And later I have moved to Columbia University in New York to get my second master's, the Master of Science. And my partner Nikolai Martinov also later, 1 year later, also went to the same school. And after graduating from Columbia University, which was a great place where I met a lot of people, I went to work in OMA New York, which I myself call in a way an architectural army. That kind of gave me a lot of kind of readiness for resistance and quite hardcore experience, because I was working there as a junior architect. It was quite an intense work in process. My boss was, his name is Shohei Shigematsu. He is a Japanese very talented architect, partner of OMA, but and my ex-professor in Columbia University. But he also had quite a tough, let's say, schedule at work. And this is, for instance, the view of the model room, where most of young architects in OMA spend most of their time. This is some old pictures when I'm with cutting the models out of foam and with some friends, and you can always see how you're in this tiny room with tons of chemicals on the walls, glues, sprays, and so on. And the times were quite hard there, as I said, and we even had this huge pillow, the famous pillow from Bordeaux, housed by Rem Koolhaas, which was used. It was first exhibited in New York and in the exhibition about OMA, and then brought to the office so that people, when they were too tired, we even sometimes slept at work in this huge pillow in shifts. And the work was quite amazing, and it really gave me, it was only 1 year there, but it really gave me a lot, not only knowledge and ability to resist, let's say, pressure and hard deadlines, but also here you can see Marina Abramovich, who is looking inside the model, which was one of the projects which we did. So it was also an amazing experience to see quite amazing people and do projects for them. So it was a really interesting and fun time, but also tough, as I said. And later I moved to Switzerland. That's how my first encounter in Switzerland was through Herzog Meuron, a big architectural office from Basel, which is a great place, and where later my partner Artyom has also started working, and that's where we kind of were preparing ourselves to open up an office. Herzog Meuron is a very established office. The schedule and the time was quite different than in New York with the Japanese boss, but it was quite still a lot of interesting work, a lot of really interesting encounters, which helped me. Nowadays, this is how the office looks now. You can see that the atmosphere is very different already from the New York conditions, much more, let's say, in a Swiss way, professional, relaxed, and kind of more detailed. And meanwhile, we were also doing small projects, like for instance, this pavilion for Hello Wood, which were our first experiences in teaching, building, making our own projects. And for instance, Hello Wood was one of the, it was a fun summer experience when we went together with Artyom and my wife, and also my wife Blanca, but who also worked at this time in Herzog. We went for a summer vacation. We led a studio. We built such a wooden billboard, which was called a wall, which was more than a wall. We had the first experience in building with our own hands, and also in first experience in teaching students. And it also gave us first inspiration to really think that we would like to start our own practice. That's our picture, how we are constructing it with lots of students. And later we quitted Herzog de Meuron, and in order to, we didn't have yet won competition, so we didn't yet have commissions. So in order to, let's say, have some, let's say, some structure and some financial support for our office, but at the same time, to start academic and teaching process, we applied to a very nice school called INDA. It's an international faculty of Chulalongkorn University in Bangkok. Chulalongkorn University, it's a huge university. It's a very traditional and like where dozens of thousands of students study. And INDA is a small faculty where of around 100 students, which is dedicated particularly to teaching Thai students international experience. And therefore, the faculty were welcoming young architects from all around the world. So there was a real variety of nationalities amongst the teachers. And at the same time, they were okay with teachers not having enough experience because they wanted to have it fresh and experimental. And while working in India and teaching with students, we developed some ideas and made several competitions, and therefore could finally manage to properly start our office. Later, we moved back to Switzerland, where I started, as you all know, working with you and in HED Genève. This is for those who are joining this conference not from HED. I will explain this is the main building of architectural faculty. That's where probably half of the students are right now. And currently we're also mostly Artyom, but I'm also joining sometimes. We are teaching a semester in Technological University in Vienna. Meanwhile, as I said, we moved quite a lot. We were collaborating distantly with Artyom and Nikolai. And this is an old screenshot from Skype. Now everyone lives a life like this. It's all day in Zoom. So for me, it's quite ironic to show this, not ironic, but like quite interesting to see already how this relatively recent screenshot is already history, because I think not many people use Skype anymore for their collaboration. And also we use a lot of, obviously like all of us, but since long ago, we use a lot of chats in our communication. And as a reflection on it, around 7 years ago, it was first time when we reflected on the fact that the whole project was done online via chat in WhatsApp. So we have published a small book, which is basically a printed out chat of our of one project which we were creating at this time, where we share references, where we discuss the project, fight, and so on. And this was, let's say, around 6 or 7 years ago when we first realized this, let's say, new, I'm now making, if you see my video, like a break, commas, new way of working, because nowadays it's obviously a very typical way for everyone to work. Meanwhile, when our office started to grow and we had created quite a big team in Moscow, we had temporary an office, physical office space in Moscow with a very nice courtyard. Here you can see this little house. We were sharing this space with with a very good graphical designers from Moscow. And this office was not so much for us a place to work. especially for me and Artyom and Nikolai, because we rarely were in Moscow, but it was a place to like a pole where we can all gather, celebrate, sometimes relax, have meetings, and meet, and so on. As soon as the pandemic has started, this office was closed, and now it's even like basically we don't have this office anymore. It was quite a nice time. We are now thinking of whether we have to reopen a physical office again, because in Moscow, unlike in Europe, all the pandemic restrictions are lifted right now, and probably we will recreate some kind of physical space again to still keep this nice atmosphere, but also to have a place to work, meet, keep our models, archive, and so on. And this is our team at the moment. We are altogether 12 people, and working all from different places and cities. So after pandemic, some people who moved particularly to Moscow to work for us, they moved back to their own cities. So now we're all at the moment working again from home, again distantly. But this is for the moment our team. Not only our permanent collaborators is important, but also we have realized that very many projects which we have done are done in collaboration, and this is just a short list of people and offices with whom we collaborated in the recent several years. With some of them we did a big proper projects. With some of them we collaborated for sometimes 1 or 2 day workshop. But it is very important for us to see how not only like we cannot boil in our own soup, like we say in Russia. We have to always meet new people and exchange ideas with them, and we think that it's very important for a contemporary office to do these collaborations. And now I will show you the projects of our office. So we started, like many offices, with competitions, and we won a competition that was one of our first projects for Cristian Andersen Museum in Denmark, which was unfortunately not built. And later there was another kind of competition where only star architects were invited, and even and us who won the first prize were not even invited to continue our project. It was the first success, but also the first failure. Then we participated in a smaller competition for a pavilion for Garage Contemporary Museum in Moscow, where quite quickly we built an art exhibition space in the park. And that was our first built work, where we used the scaffolding net to cover the building. We did some competitions in New York, like this Queensway competition. Not always we won. This project won the second prize. But later, you could see we did another important competition for us, which was a sports center in Gorky Park, where we used some of the ideas like this billboard, which people can occupy in, let's say, the climbable infrastructure of a billboard came from some of our non-realized projects to our realized projects. And that was this project was an important moment in our office, because it really gave us, first, it was in the center of Gorky Park. The client was Gorky Park and Nike. It was done in collaboration with Strelka. So this project really helped us to move to the next step of the office who builds stuff and who is ready to deal with real big urban projects. And yeah, this is how the project looked like on its opening. It was open for the football championship, which was held in Moscow. Again, as I said in the beginning, I'm not going deeply into the projects. I'm not explaining why did we do certain decisions, how did this project was born, what was the program, what's the idea. I'm not showing plans, because as I said in the beginning, I decided, judging by the topic of Vera's lecture, to rather give you an overall impression of our office and more projects, rather than going into a couple of projects in detail. We also did competitions which were on the border of art and architecture. And this was a competition organized by ProHelvetia in Switzerland, where we represented Switzerland in Prague Quadriennale in Czech Republic with our friends Fragmentin, which are very nice contemporary artists from Lausanne, where we did something which is not typical for us, where the pavilion was a very complex mechanical system which was constantly moving. And we also did some competitions for interior. And for instance, this is an interior of an airport, which was called the Dark Garden. And these competitions, it also helped us, for instance, this one to get further commissions, which I will speak later, for an airport building. Meanwhile, doing the competitions, we were also doing smaller things like pavilions and art installations, like this art installation for a Time Out magazine, Afisha in Moscow, or we were nominated for Swiss Art Awards, and we have built this kind of temporary structure, which was a wall representing different materials which protect humans from architecture and architecture from humans. And we were playing on this contrast between soft and spiky materials, between the aggressive and protective materials. And currently we are still continuing working with scenography, with temporary structures, with art installations. And this is our recent project, which was done for the prima ballerina. You can see her here, of Mariinsky Theater, one of the most prominent dancers in Russia, and maybe even very, very famous in the world, where we basically have made a scenography for her, which was these inflated columns, which basically was a request because of COVID. All the theaters were closed, and the ballerina decided to make kind of a pavilion, which was only made in a video. And I can share later in the chat of this lecture a video which is with very beautiful music, 5 minutes, how she dances in between these kind of movable columns, and also continuing this theme of artistic art spaces. We did our project, which brought us also a lot of new potentials, new commissions, and new interest to our office, was AMO space, which was a transformation of an old factory, which we wrapped in a metallic foil, which is usually used for thermal insulation, where we exhibited this kind of scenographic moon. And this project really helped us also to move on with the project. Besides, so I have spoken already about competitions and, let's say, temporary art installations. Besides, on the side, we were doing the so-called speculative projects. These are the projects which we usually initiated ourselves, which therefore we were not sure they will be built or realized one day. So the first time we did this type of work was for Basel. When we decided to move to Bangkok, we have made a series of public spaces in Basel, where we discovered the potential of Basel, let's say, undiscovered and overly regulated public spaces. So for instance, this was a transformation of an old underground river into a linear botanical garden. This was a proposal for a new artistic ferry, which was floating and combining the infrastructure with the public space with an art gallery. This was a proposal of transforming a traditional Basel fountain in an urban winter spa. And interestingly enough, these speculative projects moved on. And last year, in 2020, we were invited. So the speculative proposals were presented to Basel 4 years ago in 2017. Actually, we were working on these speculative proposals from Bangkok. And 1 year ago, we got approached by the city of Basel, by the planning administration, which were doing a huge exhibition on future of Basel. And they asked us to work on the new principles of development of Basel public spaces. And therefore, our speculative proposals became principles for development of Basel future space. We continued to work in the same kind of speculative illustration manner, but the ideas which were behind the projects were quite serious, and they were speaking, for instance, here of treating the ground floors of industrial buildings, which are renovated currently in Basel, as a big common system of public spaces, not as a units of privatized shops and public spaces, but as a common system. And this one was also a proposal. It's not a proposal of making green roofs. There's nothing new in the green roofs, but again, the idea was of treating the same way how you treat the ground floor level as a system of public spaces, of treating the rooftops not as privatized pockets of public space, but as a system, as a walkable kind of new layer of the city. And there were much more proposals, and I would not go too much in details. We have explained in many other lectures these projects, or you can look on our website. We also worked on a much bigger scale, like this project was called Borderland. So coming out from Basel scale, we made for Biennale in San Sebastian in Spain, we made a proposal which was a new country for the whole globe. So it was occupying the borders of all countries in the world and giving use to otherwise abandoned and deterritorialized spaces. And this was obviously not a real kind of architectural proposal, but like a speculative idea, speaking about the new community of people, about the fact how should we treat the borders, how should we treat national identity and an exchange between people. And more projects of this type. Unfortunately, this link is missing, but I think you see the idea. This is a project which is not yet published. It will be presented in May in Venice Biennale. It was a speculative proposal for a Polish countryside, for the Polish pavilion, where we again treat the borders of different, so we treat roads as a kind of livable border. And again, so this is another type, kind of finalizing this chapter, this type of speculative ideas, which are maybe not usually buildable, but they have serious, let's say, social and architectural ideas, which we believe in. This is another, let's say, I wouldn't call it branch, but part of our work. When we speak about, as when I said, like when we started to realize certain projects and win competitions, we also received certain big projects, which were very, like very serious commissions for our relatively small office. But big projects also brought big failures. So it's not, today I'm also not sharing you only the idea of how good our office or how everything goes perfect. We also had, for instance, a project of an airport, which we kind of, it was a weird competition, which we first won, then they took away the prize, then we won it again. Then we were working for 5 years with a real client. We went to all the, it's a project for Kamchatka Airport, which is the far east part of Russia next to Japan. The project was developed up to the latest development was all the drawings and the permission, the application for permission. But later, this project was kind of hijacked by another architect, and the client invited funnily enough, the architect of Kanye West to redesign our airport, and he did quite a terrible, I must say, design. I can also share a funny article about it. Or another huge project and a huge competition which we won was a university in St. Petersburg, which also later, after the project was won, they canceled the results of, again, sorry, the link is for some reason missing. So unfortunately, you see the blurry image. But again, this was a we worked almost a year on this. It was a huge urban competition with a huge university campus where we competed against MVRDV and other world famous architects. We won it, but then the whole jury process was canceled and this project didn't go on. And some other projects which we still value as projects, like this renovation of a pavilion in the central park VDNH in Moscow, which were also not, or these Gazprom headquarters competitions, which were very big and very prestigious competitions for us, but they were not won. Again, coming back to the topic of how to run your own office, we have to understand that, yeah, like it's a lot of work which is wasted in a way, which sometimes the competitions are not fair, sometimes competitions get canceled, or sometimes you win, but no one builds what you want. So this, or another project in Georgia, when we proposed a very good park, but then when the project started to develop, the client said that actually he wanted to do a casino instead of a park, and therefore we had to withdraw ourselves from the project. Besides, so again, repeating just for myself more, so I presented to you competitions, I presented to you temporary pavilions and artistic, let's say, installations. I presented to you speculative projects, and I presented to you, let's say, non-won competitions. We also do theoretical work, and I would show you the recent 1 year ago in Milano Triennale, we present our book, which was called Temporary Texture, with a crossed out cone and archi, which this is a book which was presented in a magnified, oversized way in Milano. So you see the book in front, the tiny book, and then it was printed, I don't know, 10 times bigger on a very industrial type of vinyl paper. And basically this book speaks about our obsession and interest in the temporary infrastructure architecture, which happens in most of contemporary cities, and where we postulate the principles which something like maximum effect, which is received with minimum means. Like here, this is a Swiss typology of Bauprofile. And we are speaking that this architecture is, although it's temporary, but its appearance is completely timeless. Although it looks decorative, it's a very functional, like here in this Geneva scaffolding, where you can see that each color actually represents a certain function, and it's not done for beauty or aesthetical reasons. That although it's completely fake, like these temporary banner facades, sometimes these buildings stand for years in the cities, and therefore they're very real. And again, like that, although looking ordinary, they create completely unique conditions like this for the OMA. And yeah, again, I'm sorry, guys, somehow there's this, I don't know what happened, but there's a series of missing links. So unfortunately, some pages are blurry, but at least you see the main thing. So in this book, we oppose this type of new temporary infrastructural architecture with an ideal kind of ideal city, the way how we are taught. We were taught architecture in university, and saying that actually this another layer of the city. It actually, like here you can see a busy street somewhere in Hong Kong. Sometimes this temporary infrastructural and rational architecture occupies more and plays bigger role in the city than the architecture itself. A very important part of our, as you all know, because we're talking in head, we're talking to the students who were our students or will be our students. Teaching is a very important part. So we started to teach in head. We combine a lot of practical projects together with theoretical teaching. So here is the first project we did together with my assistant Bertrand Van Dorp, who is, I don't know, probably, maybe he's also here in this virtual room. Here he is. When we built a series of installations in Geneva, like this one, for instance, was a bar where you had to squeeze the juice of an orange on top and then get your final drink on the bottom, and some other funny projects, which we invite quite interesting people who later become our collaborators. Like here you can see Jan de Wilder, who is speaking to Thibaut. I don't know if he's now in the audience, but he's also one of the MAIA students now. And yeah, we do a lot of models. We do a lot of kind of real projects or projects which have opportunity to be realized, like this abandoned hotel in Saint-Cergue. And sometimes the projects get realized, like this is, as you all know, in head. The great thing in head is that you don't only do theoretical stuff, that when you propose something in a very big amount of cases, it gets realized. So here was a proposal by students from our studio, which was later built in Arles. And this was a series of periscopes for the festival called Rencontre de Photographie. Just a second, computer is freezing. Yeah, here's another picture of this Arles installation. So it was designed by, there was a proposal by student, it won kind of the jury. Then the students also developed together with me and Bertrand. And then we all together went to Arles and have built it. And again, like we really believe in the fact that teaching should be through through real projects, or we have a lot of collaboration, academical collaborations as well in HED, and this is collaborations with Camondo School. Some of you most probably also have participated in this type of workshops. And besides, we continue doing workshops together with other schools outside of HED, outside of Vienna University of Technology. And here we have built a temporary pavilion in Karlsruhe in Germany with our friends, architects from here. They are HHF. This is quite a good Basel office, and MAIA. It's quite a nice, here is Anna Pugjaner and Guillermo, her partner. These are guys from Spain. So we continue this type of work. And sometimes the projects of students become realized in HED itself. Like this was a project by students, by one of the students, which again won the internal jury, and then it was realized for HED fashion department. It was a very beautiful défilé 2 years ago when the public events were still allowed. And again, another example of workshop with AA Studio, and even our employees are now teaching and doing workshops on their own. So this is not our kind of personal work of Cosmos, but this was curated and built and designed completely by two of our collaborators from Moscow who got invited to do a workshop, and they did it under the, let's say, the Cosmos umbrella, but completely on their own, where they made a kind of artificial mountain from some recycled wood in Crimea. And to finalize, to show you some of the ongoing work, currently we are working on a multiplicity of projects. Here you can see some of them. Some of them are just starting, like we have a kickoff meeting tomorrow. Some of them are just finished. Some of them are being canceled. Some of them are being worked on. So here you can see a variety of projects on which we work now. And I would present now a couple of the most kind of relevant to us, or the ones we can share. One of them is Chateau Chapiteau. So it's in Georgia. We are building together with quite interesting guys a community for, let's say, nomadic people. And there we propose a house, like a series of houses. I'm just showing now one, but actually we did now already 4 types of structures there. And this was an interesting typology of elevated house, which had a private space on top where people can sleep. It's a simple room. And on bottom, it creates kind of an open space, public living room with a chimney, with a fireplace where people can gather, and kind of combines both the private and the public. And also, although the project is called Chateau Chapiteau, and therefore it's quite a funny project, but we also tried that this project is quite, let's say, contemporary, and not only kind of relaxed in the fun project, but also is a nice design, which is, just a second, guys. I need to stop for literally 5 seconds. Hello, I'm back. Is everyone here? Hello?
Yes.
Hello. Yes. Sorry for the pause. Okay, just so you know, I'm finishing quite soon. So in case you're bored, soon we will finish. Yes, so this is the project of Chateau Chapiteau, this house, which although it looks both yeah, so on the previous image, you saw how due to use of reflective metal material, it blends with the surroundings. But when you come closer to it, it opens to you for ornamental roofs, which refer to the Chapiteau Circus, which is the name of this new nomadic community in Georgia, which is our client. And therefore, under this house, you feel in a completely different atmosphere. We realize right now quite a big project of 380 hectares of a park in Nizhny Novgorod. This is the plan of this park. The project will be built in this summer. It's a central park in a big industrial city in the central Russia, where a series of public spaces and pavilions are integrated into the existing forest. We didn't cut anywhere the trees, so it was placed in pavilions, like acupuncturally in the places where there were already existing pavements or existing old buildings. We have created a very diverse series of very diverse pavilions, but which were all united by a similar design code of this green wooden open work structures, which kind of plays between the bold iconicity and let's say reference to old park pavilions. And here you can see some of the renderings of the pavilions. The previous one was social center, children's center, sports centers, park cafe, and this is how the park looks all together. So we're looking forward to its opening very soon. Another project which we're working is a huge skate park building, where we were invited to, let's say, to add to the existing skateboard park. The budget was quite limited, and there was already a given volume of the building. So what we proposed is to keep the simplicity, to use a very, very simple and cheap material, corrugated metal, but to give the identity to this project by creating a public space which hugs the building from all sides and creates public space. The building is now getting built, but there is a constant debate on whether one of the most important parts, like these hills, which are, some of them are skateboardable, some of them are amphitheater, some of them are for children and families, whether they should be built, because the project already ran out of budget. So it's again speaking about how not everything is, even if you win or you start realizing the project, it's not always goes smooth, but we cross our fingers that it will be realized. And I think the last project which I would like to present, if I'm not mistaken, is the urban competition, which we recently, they announced the winners. There's 2 winners of this project. Now there's a public voting for this project, and this project is in Saratov, in a Russian city, and this was a collaboration between us and Dutch office called Caris and Brands. It's a landscape and urbanism office, and Menda Works, which is a big urbanistic office from Sweden. And this was a project where of a huge scale, the scales of the whole city. So there was a renovation of an old airport into a new residential quartier, and 5 different parks, a natural reserve, an island, sand island, the ravine, and the Victory Park. And for each one, we have created its own identity. So this was the memorial park with different techniques and military planes, which we placed into the new gardens, therefore kind of bringing down the pathos and the importance of the military part of this park, and kind of underlining their technological and the fact that they brought peace to the country. Then for the natural reserve, just a second. I'm sorry, my son is crying, and therefore it gets very stressful. But I'm almost finished. Yeah, so this was a development for another park, for the natural reserve, for the sand islands, and for the ravine. Thank you very much. If you don't mind, especially because
I think if you are in a stressful moment, I would not start a Q&A now.
Yeah, maybe, like, if I'm not mistaken, we have a question and answers series in 1 hour and 15 minutes. I need to apologize very much, but maybe I stopped to share.
Good.
I stopped to share. I stopped the screen. I'm sorry, but you can imagine when you have a home office and then the baby starts crying, you don't feel very kind of relaxed presenting. So I'm sorry if it was in the end a little bit, yeah.
I think it's all good. So I have some questions and maybe other people have questions, but I would say that Leonid, maybe we stop it here because maybe it's stressful for you.
I think, I mean, let's do like this. I think now I spoke to, I think my son stopped crying, but if it will continue, I will have to, to stop the presentation, especially because I have already made the main part, and then we can return to questions and answers in 1 hour, 15 minutes.
Yeah, I think I will propose it like that as well. In a few hours or in an hour and a half, we have a session with the MAIA 4 group, and then we can have opportunity for Q&A. Thank you so much, Leonid. Thank you everybody for coming. And I'll see the MAIA 4 in a couple of hours with Leonid again. Take it easy, everybody.
Thank you very much. And sorry again.
Thank you. Thank you.